We want to be the catalyst that gets other companies in Nigeria to take environmental issues very seriously, making sure that we are giving back to the society from which we derive our livelihood as well. And we are nurturing the environment in a way that even for our children, there's sustainability into the future.
There's a planet for them to live on.
Yes, yes.
Welcome to another episode of the Advocate Distinguished Guest Series. My name is Gloria Ogunbamidele, and today I'm going to be interviewing and speaking to Miss Odiri Erewa Meggisson. Miss Odiri Erewa Meggisson is the External Affairs Director at British America Tobacco, West and Central Africa, and we'll be having a conversation on stakeholder engagement, how you effectively maintain conversations and dialogue with the various stakeholders that you work with in an organization. You serve as the External Relations Director at your organization. So can you let us know what do your typical roles and responsibilities? What do they involve?
Okay, as the External Affairs Director for BAT West and Central Africa, my day really evolves around engaging with key stakeholders within the government circle, within consumers, internal stakeholders as well, to make sure that our views are heard. We maintain a seat at the table where any discussions that impact our industry, we're there and we're involved in those discussions, in helping to shape and ensure that there's a balance of views in the way our industry is dealt with across board.
Okay, so which now brings me to my next question. No doubt the stakeholders that you work with are a very diverse group. You have your investors, your board, the external stakeholders, even your customers don't fall within the same social circles. There's a whole lot of diversity. How do you handle all of that? How do you manage your diverse stakeholders and you still end up portraying the best image of your firm, of your organization out there?
So I work within a team, a good team of engagers who actually support me in the engagements. First, it's important to do a stakeholder mapping. You need to understand who you're engaging with, who your stakeholders are. You need to understand what are the issues, what are their concerns, to make sure that when you go and engage with them, the whole idea is that you're coming together to find a solution that works, right? So irrespective of whether it's a consumer I'm engaging with or whether it's a government stakeholder I'm engaging or even internal employees, I need to first understand who my audience is and then channel my message to make sure that it resonates and it lands well with them. That by the time I'm leaving, it's clearly we've had a dialogue session. We've been able to discuss issues and we leave that meeting, even if I'm not able to achieve what my objective is at the end of the day. But you leave that meeting understanding and, ensuring that you have had a dialogue whereby both sides are heard, and then you reach a consensus or you reach a midpoint whereby you can agree on a way forward. So what's key for us is making sure that you know who your stakeholder is. You actually do your homework on who your stakeholder is. You make sure that when you're engaging with them, you are conscious and empathetic to their views. You go with the mindset that I want to leave this session finding a solution that works for all parties, So that's how we navigate our waters.
If we talk about risk, as you are the External Affairs Director, there are a lot of things that will go on, inside and outside. When there's a risk issue, what do you do? How do you minimize your company's risk?
So you always have to do a risk assessment, first of all, to identify what is the level of risk. In every situation you go into, there are always risks, but you have to see what is your level, what's your risk appetite, right? And then how can you mitigate against the risk? What are the things you can do to ensure that the business is protected, right?
At all times.
You can't wish away all risks, right? Every decision, even getting up every day, getting to work is a risk, right? Because you can come across, you can be knocked down, anything can happen. But you assess the risk and then you determine what is the level of my risk appetite? How far can I go? What are the mitigating factors that I can put in place to make sure that if this risk happens, I'm protected? And then you have a plan. And when we do our risk assessments, it has to be done holistically. So you can't do it in isolation. You have to talk across the entire organization. How can you ensure that you're looking at it holistically and you're able to address it? If it's an external risk that is coming to us, you have to see sometimes once you've done the assessment, you go out. You don't wait until the risk crystallizes. You get up and you go and engage with whoever it is, what the issue is. There's nothing that dialogue cannot resolve at the end of the day. Sure. So it's all about planning, making sure that you plan timely, you get the right people involved, you fully understand what the issues are, and you drill down and you come up with a plan of how you want to address that risk the right decisions are taken at the right levels. The board decides, okay, maybe this risk, I'm willing to go. The risk is so low that even if it happens, the impact is low. I'm going to go ahead with it. Or if the risk is so high that the impact to the business, either to the business sustainability or to the reputation is high, and you say, okay, for this, we're not going to go ahead because if it does crystallize, it will be catastrophic. So those are the kind of decisions that we need to make sure that we have assessed, and when we're going into, or when we make a decision as the leaders of a company, we're making the right decision, fully assessing all the risks at every level, and you have a plan, a plan B, as a way to mitigate it.
Work, we go here.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, ma'am. Okay, so if we now talk about corporate communication, so obviously a whole lot of your work has to do with communication. You have to be sure that you are properly passing across the right message. How do you communicate to your external stakeholders? Government regulators for one, your investors, your customers, even as little or as big as your supply chain. How do you maintain effective communication with them?
Okay, remember I said at the beginning that you have to understand your stakeholder, right? The way I would engage with my consumer is not the same way I engage with government. It's not the same way I will engage with investors, right? Yeah. So you first need to understand who am I speaking with? What am I trying to tell them? You can still be passing on the same message, but the way you channel the message has to be targeted in a way that it will resonate with them. So for example, if I'm coming to speak to lawyers, I need to be able to channel my message in a way that the legal terminology they would understand. If I'm going to meet my finance guy, I need to be speaking to him in a language that he would understand. I can't be speaking legalese to him, because if you say you're using legal terminology with him, you're speaking above his head. He doesn't understand what you're saying. So it's important that effective communication is one that you do very simple, in a language that is clearly understood. It resonates with the audience who you are intending to pass that message on to. And then you have to, again, when you communicate with them, there are different channels for communicating. You have the direct engagements, one-on-one. You have the written engagements. You have the media. So there are different platforms. So again, it depends on who I'm talking to, what platform am I using to engage with them, and I make sure that the message is very clear, simple, concise message, so that whatever I'm trying to get across, I make sure I land it. And then you have to also check back. Have I communicated effectively? Have I passed my message across? So in terms of, at the end of the day, trying to summarize what it is you have even said to them. If it's in a letter, you make sure that in your letter you put a summary of what is your ask, what are in a bullet point form that is very clear. They're not
for them to see.
They don't read it and they just want you. This is just all words, and they don't really understand what you have, what you're saying. So it has to be clearly defined. What am I asking for? What is the background? What's the issue? What am I proposing? What are the options? So very clear, right? If it's a direct engagement that I'm having with you, I will give you a summary at the end of the day, a short summary of these are the 1, 2, 3 things that we have discussed, the key takeouts, to make sure that our minds have met, right?
Sure.
If it's in the media, I have to make sure again that the media communication is one that is done using visually. It's visually appealing. The text is very simple, very clear, concise. You don't use too many words, because people, if someone like me, I get lost when I say a lot of words, right? So when you use very short, concise words, your message is very clear. 1 sentence, 2 sentences,
they
very
see
clear.
What you're talking about.
They see what you're talking about, and it's easier to bridge the gap a lot easier if you are clear on what it is you are trying to talk about and communicate about.
To build a truly sustainable business, we all know that this is everything right now. ESG is a very major factor. We have to constantly check, are we doing the right things? Is our business sustainable? Are we reporting clearly? So how do you manage ESG issues within your organization?
So ESG is becoming front and center of everything that we do.
Yeah, definitely.
We are very environmental conscious. We have a global strategy in terms of what we want to achieve within a timeline, 2025, 2050. We have targets. So we have a factory in Ibadan. We're saying that we have zero wastes.
Great.
We do a lot of recycling. We actually go into business with small scale business holders, how to recycle even a cigarette butts to make it into reusable materials that you can even use in the home. There's a lady who we call the beehive lady who started a beehive farm. She started with 1 beehive. Through the intervention we gave to her, she's able to expand to 50 beehives, and she's even thinking of how to expand and diversify, how to use the byproducts from when she harvests the bees, the honeycomb, how does she use it, integrate it for other things, so there is no waste at the end of the day.
Yeah? Everything gets used.
And governance, we're very big on governance because we're multinational, so we're on the stock exchange in the UK and in America as well. So it's very important that governance is front and center of everything that we do. We make sure we fully comply with all the rules and regulations in which we wherever we operate, in all jurisdictions we operate in. So it's very dear to us in terms of ESG, and we actually want to be the catalyst that gets other companies in Nigeria to take environmental issues very seriously, making sure that we are giving back to the society from which we derive our livelihood as well, and we are nurturing the environment in a way that even for our children, there's sustainability into the future.
There's a planet for them to live on.
Yes.
That's really good. So, you've transitioned beyond regular lawyering. I can see that you've done several roles. You've gone through marketing, compliance, and now you are head of external affairs director. Would you say that your background in law, would you say it has helped in you properly going about and properly dispensing with your duties now? Yes,
it does. It does, because as lawyers, you mop up, right? You read a lot. You learn how to communicate effectively. You learn how to engage. If you have to go to court, you have to persuade the judge with your arguments, right?
Of course, definitely.
So that has helped in terms of transcending and moving from one role to the next role. Being open for me is all about welcoming new challenges, being open, being willing to learn new things, not be afraid to say I don't know, willing to learn, making sure that I see the business from different angles, because it makes you a more better person. So when you're preferring advice to the business, because I've seen the business from different angles, I'm able to broaden my mindset. And I think that's having a legal background has helped in that regard. A lot of things I have to do with government, I have to go and engage for balanced regulation. Again, because I'm a lawyer, my background, I'm able to even understand what are the issues, what are the concerns that the government regulators have, what are the legal arguments, what are the positions that we want, why we need to have the right type of regulation that achieves what the government wants, but at the same time keeps the legal industry in a sustainable way going forward. So definitely, I think it's been a plus in terms of where I am now and where I possibly would be in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Ma. It was great having you here. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching this episode of the Advocates Distinguished Guest Series. You can check out other episodes on our website, on our YouTube channel, and on our social media platforms. You can also check out all of the other wonderful contents that we'll post on all of these platforms.